Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylee and these are my books. Can't believe May is already over and here we are making a TBR for June, but it has happened. This is a readathon free month for me, which is exciting since April and May we had back-to-back giant readathons, so things will be a little bit more low-key, a little bit more slower pace, which hopefully will be represented in the TBR game, because I am here to play my TBR game, which is TBRLAND, a TBR game inspired by Candyland. And I would love to just have a chill month. Not too much to read, not too much pressure, but in order for me to have that, the game needs to cooperate. So everyone please send your good vibes my way, or more accurately, please send your good vibes to my game board, please. Thank you. But before we get started with my TBR game, I first need to draw my Knight Helmet book choice, which this is a part of my top tier on my Patreon. My top tier patrons can choose me a book and all of their book choices gets added into a jar, but the jar has been upgraded to a Knight Helmet. And every 2 months I draw out one of their book choices and I have to read it within 2 months. I did my first book choice last month and it was a manga, and so I was able to read it really quickly and I finished it up in May. And so even though it was the May-June choice, I wanted to make another random draw and get a new patron book choice for June and July. Here are all of the choices living in this jar, so I'm just gonna dump them into the Knight Helmet. Just in case the Knight Helmet seems so weird and random, my patron is themed around knights, so that's the context you need for why I'm drawing it out of a Knight Helmet. But they're all in here. I'm shaking them around, and I'm gonna draw one randomly. There's a lot of scary books in here, so I'm very nervous about what I'm gonna choose. Okay, I think I have one, just one in my, I just wanted to make sure I didn't actually accidentally draw two, but here we have the one. I don't know what it is. Let's open up this tiny scrap of paper. Oh, it's a nice one, and it's one I'm really interested in reading. So Jessica's choice is Amari and the Knight Brothers. Let me go grab it because I own this one already. So my first official May TBR book has been selected by Jessica, and it is Amari and the Knight Brothers. I've been wanting to read this for forever, so I'm really excited to finally have an excuse. I recently bought this hardcover from Half Price Books, and the cover is so beautiful. This is a middle grade fantasy that everyone seems to say is like the most amazing book ever. So I'm going into this book with high expectations, and I'm hoping to discover that I love this book too, and therefore I can also have a middle grade fantasy favorite. And now that that's out of the way, I'm going to send you into my TBR game. Hello, time for the first card pull. One purple, so a thriller. The first card pull put us on a thriller. This is a pretty broad space. There's so many thrillers that I want to read, but I think the one I'm selecting for this month is The Family Game. This cover has always just looked so nice to me. I love the kind of neon writing over that dark blue. And I know a couple of my friends have read this and enjoyed it. And I own this through an ebook, so it'd be nice to read it because sometimes I kind of ignore the books that I own through ebook only. Let's be honest, I ignore all of the books that I own just in general, ebook and physical books. So this is a domestic thriller that I think gets a little bit more wild towards the end, and I believe it has a holiday setting too, which is fun. I don't know too much about this book. I don't want to know too much about this book, so we're gonna move on to the next card pull. All right, time for the second card pull. I'm actually hoping for one green because then we could land on horror and go across the alien bridge. So let's see. Not a green. We got a pink, which is a backlist thriller or horror book. The next card pull landed us on a backlist thriller or horror book, so I'm going with The Devotion of Suspect X. This is actually a translated Japanese thriller that is the Literally Dead Book Club's choice, which is Books and Lala's book club choice. But this one, The Devotion of Suspect X, really caught my eye because I think the only other Japanese translated book that I've read was Confessions, and that's one of my all-time favorite thrillers ever. Like, I loved it so much last year. It made my top 10 books of the year list. And so I need to try out more Japanese thrillers. This Devotion of Suspect X sounds like it's following some sort of government agent that's investigating a serial killer and looking into a woman who has a lot of secrets in her backstory. I just saw the word serial killer and was immediately intrigued because I love any serial killer story, so I'm excited to give this book a try next month. All right, time for our third card pull. Another pink. Oh my gosh, this is like the same as last month. What the heck? I swear I shuffled these cards, but we got backlist and isolated setting for May. What's going on? Next up, we landed on isolated setting, thriller, or horror, and this board is looking eerily similar to last month's. Don't like that, because I landed on backlist and then isolated setting in a row last month, and I struggled a little bit with isolated setting, and I struggled again with isolated setting this month. But I asked Lexi for help, because Lexi is one of my go-to people for spooky book recommendations, and since we were in the thriller and horror section, I was like, Lexi, I need some help with an isolated setting thriller and horror book, and she recommended Foe to me. I have it up on the screen here. I had never really heard of this book before, but I'm excited to read it because it is by an author that I've been wanting to try out more of his books. And it sounds like it's like a weird post-apocalyptic book about these people that live in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and then one of them gets drafted to go somewhere else. And the synopsis is like very odd and doesn't tell you much, but it sounds like it's gonna be very weird horror, and I'm into that, so I'm excited. All right, time for the fourth card pull. Let's hope for some more diversity amongst our landing spots because I don't want a full repeat of last month. A blue. Okay, this is new from last month at least. I think we landed on this a couple months ago, but we didn't land on it on May, so I'm happy about a Goodreads choice thriller or horror. Next up, I landed on the Goodreads spot on the thriller and horror section of the board, and this basically means I put in a thriller or horror book that I've read and enjoyed onto Goodreads, and I choose a book from the Readers Also Enjoyed section. So for this month, I put in Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca, because while I gave the whole book a 4-star, that first initial novella in it, the Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, is one of the best horror novellas I've ever read, and I wanted more horror like that, like more weird, grotesque horror. And so I scrolled down, and you can kind of see there's like, it doesn't say Readers Also Enjoyed for some reason on the video that's playing on the screen, but like that is the Readers Also Enjoyed section. I think my app was just glitching and it wasn't saying Readers Also Enjoyed. But I was scrolling through those books, seeing what the options were. There's a lot of strong contenders here. But then I saw Pen Pal, and Pen Pal has been on my want-to-read list ever since Lexi read it, I think back in October, and it was like one of her favorite books of all time, one of her favorite books of the year. Loved it so much, and since then, some more of my friends have read it, and they've also loved it, and I need to read it and love it too. So I will be reading Pen Pal in June, and I'm so excited about this. Pen Pal is a horror book that is structured uniquely to my understanding. It's like a collection of short stories that all connect and tell a larger story of this man like growing up from childhood to an adulthood. I don't know much more than that, and again, I don't want to know much more than that. I feel like any like weird type of horror book is better to know nothing going into it, and so that's all I'm going to tell you about the synopsis. Time for our fifth card pull. Double blue, so really good movement. So we're actually moving into the fantasy and sci-fi section. We're skipping this sci-fi one, and I'm gonna pull you guys down because something really exciting is happening. We landed on an ebook, fantasy or sci-fi ebook, but we also landed on our love bridge. We've never been able to go across the love bridge before, but the love bridge basically means we get to skip this whole section. I'll pull it down more. This whole section is skipped. We're about to finish the game already. Oh my gosh. If I ever needed an easy month, it is the months after 2 back-to-back big readathons. We got some really good movement in that card pull because not only did we get a double blue, so we moved like the maximum amount of space that we could move, and we landed on an ebook in the fantasy and science fiction section, but then we also landed where we can take the love bridge next time. So this board is working perfectly with what I wanted for this month. Like the board is my best friend right now and I love it. But for the ebook, this basically just means I could choose any fantasy or science fiction ebook, and we're in luck because I have a million fantasy ebooks I need to read in June and July because I am participating in SPIFBO, which is the self-published fantasy blog off. Cassidy is an official judge and I'm on Cassidy's team where she has assigned me 10 self-published fantasy books to read, and then I choose my favorite one to give to Cassidy as a semi-finalist, and then she will read all 6 semi-finalists and choose one book as a finalist to submit as one of the 10 official finalists of the competition. So really any of these 10 books could fit on this TBR. I don't know exactly which ones I'm reading in June and which ones I'm reading in July. The current plan is to read 5 in June and 5 in July and vlog both of them, so have a 5-book vlog go out in June and a 5-book vlog go out in July. Maybe the one I'll spotlight right this second to fill in this ebook spot is Sword of Mercy and Wrath, because this is my personal favorite cover of all the books in the competition. I think it's beautiful and I'm really excited to read this book because it's a grimdark fantasy with a strong female protagonist involving werewolves and things like that. To my understanding, I think it sounds awesome. The cover looks awesome, the synopsis sounds awesome, and all the subgenres of fantasy it's in are subgenres that I have been wanting to read more and more of. So this is the one officially on the TBR, but I could replace this with any of the 10 books that I've been assigned because 5 of them will for sure get read in June. And I'm choosing which ones I read kind of randomly. I have a wheel and I'm spinning the wheel each time. Time for our 6th card pull, potentially our last card pull. Not our last one. So we landed on this 200-page space, which I know it's written wrong. It's meant to say a romance that's less than 200 pages. So then going across the love bridge did not bring us to the end of the board because in fact we got on my very embarrassing square where I've miswrote less than 200 pages, but it does mean a romance book or romance novella, I guess, that's less than 200 pages. So for this I've selected Barbarian Mind, which is the 4th book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I've read the first 3, enjoyed the first 3. I want to continue on in the series, so now's the time. I think it's like 190 something pages, so it fits the less than 200 pages prompt, and I just think these books are a good time. Are they for everyone? No, but I think they're so fun. All right, time for our 7th card pull. 1 purple, which moves us into the mood read and finishes our game very easily this month. With the last card pull, we've landed on the mood read section, and this is only a mood read if I finish the previous month's TBR, and this is a little bit of a stretch. We're not quite yet done with May on the day that I'm filming this. However, I have started every book that was on my official TBR, and while I might not finish it in May, I'm gonna finish it at the very beginning of June. So I'm counting that as a win because every book that was on my May TBR is getting read. So I'm giving myself the mood read option and not giving myself the punishment of a randomly generated book. This mood read option is going to have a couple different options. It's likely going to be one of my required reads that didn't make it onto this board. For example, I have put Sword of Mercy and Wrath, one of my SPIFBO reads, on my TBR, but I need to read at least 4 other ones this month, so maybe it'll be one of the SPIFBO books I've been assigned. Maybe it will be the TJ Klune book, In the Lives of Puppets, because this is actually my June selection for my Patreon book club called Nightly Readers. So I'm reading all of these. All of these could be the mood read selection. Maybe if I get those all done and I have extra time for an extra mood read, I'll choose something else. But all of these are the books that I am currently in the mood for anyways, even though they are required reads. And with that, we've hit the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments any books that you plan on reading in June. And definitely let me know if we have any overlap because I love to know if you guys are going to be reading any of the books that I'm going to be reading so that way we could chat about them on sprints or anything like that. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time. Bye!